The episode that we will be reviewing tonight is Season 2, Episode 9, Second Sight, which was first broadcast on the 22nd of November, 1993. It was directed by Alexander Singer. The story was by Mark Gerard O'Connell, who co-wrote the teleplay with Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolfe. In terms of content warnings, there isn't very much to give for this one. There's some discussion of an unhappy marriage, and at the end, a non-main character chooses to end his own life. But it's not in a peculiarly traumatic way. So, Tim, are you ready to give us an episode summary?
I most certainly am. Thank you very much, Kat. Okay, so kicking us off, we give thanks, as always, to the dedicated contributors and editors of Wikipedia. Thank you very much for your service.
Good work.
So, whilst stargazing on the station's promenade level at night, Sisko meets a woman named Fenna. After a brief conversation, Sisko finds that she has left him without a word. Later, when the two meet again, Sisko takes Fenna on a tour of the station, and they rapidly fall in love. It is the first spark of romance he has felt since the death of his wife, Jennifer, 4 years earlier. And to specify here, it is the anniversary of Jennifer's passing at the Battle of 359. However, Fenna is evasive when Sisko asks her about her life. Fearing she may be in trouble, Sisko asks Security Chief Odo to check on her, but Odo can find no record of anyone meeting her description on the station. Meanwhile, the renowned but egomaniacal terraformer Gideon Sayatek is visiting Deep Space Nine en route to his next project. The project, which he considers his magnum opus, is to reignite a dying star so that the planets orbiting it can support life. The plan is to send an unmanned vessel carrying the necessary fuel on a collision course with the star. Sayatek invites the senior staff of Deep Space Nine for dinner on board the Prometheus, the ship escorting him on this mission. He introduces his wife Nidell, who looks exactly like Fenna. After dinner, Sisko privately converses with Nidell. However, she acts as if she had never met him before. Later that evening, Fenna appears at Sisko's quarters. She claims to know nothing about Nidell. As she is kissing Sisko, she suddenly vanishes in a beam of energy. Sisko and Science Officer Dax accompany Sayatek aboard the Prometheus to observe the terraforming mission. When Fenna appears again, Dax determines that Fenna is nothing more than pure energy. Meanwhile, Nidell is unconscious and dying. Sayatek explains that Fenna is a telepathic projection of Nidell's subconscious, who appears during times of emotional stress. She's no longer happy in her marriage, but since her people mate for life, she cannot leave her husband. Her projected dreams of freedom have created Fenna, but are also killing her. While Sisko and Fenna are discussing the nature of her existence, Dax calls Sisko to the bridge. Sayatek has boarded the vessel carrying the fuel and is piloting it directly towards the star. Sisko tried to deter him, but Sayatek is determined to set his wife free. With a final shout of "Let there be light!" he detonates the fuel and reignites the star, killing himself in the blast. Later, Nidell leaves to return to her homeworld with no memory of Fenna's romance with Sisko. Episode concludes.
Bravo, excellently delivered.
Thank you, and as always, thank you to Wikipedia for giving us the summary. At this point, I will now throw back to Kat, co-pilot, and ask Kat for their kind of initial impressions at the top of the episode before we dig through it kind of moment by moment. So, Kat, please take it away.
I was a little disappointed in this episode. It feels very Star Trek. It feels like it could have been an original series episode where the ersatz captain falls in love with a mysterious woman, and then it turns out that she can't be with him for reasons that he doesn't understand. And there's nothing at stake because we know that she's not going to stay with him. The chances of her being the next new crew member that's going to be here for the next several seasons are extremely low. So what do we think's going to happen? Is he going to get his heart broken and she's going to go away? Yes, of course she is. And there are well, I'll go into it in more depth as we go, but there are some difficulties with the way that this story is structured. Means that Fenna doesn't have a personality beyond fancying Sisko. She has no past. She doesn't know what she likes. She doesn't know where she's been. She only wants Sisko. And Nidell, the real person that she is quiet and unhappy because she can't give away too much of herself either, so that the mechanics of the plot can work. So you've effectively got two women who cannot have personalities, who are only there for the sake of the dramatic experiences of the men.
And
which is not a great... Sorry.
I was just going to say, and the way Star Trek works, as you clearly highlighted earlier, we know they don't have a story beyond the end of this episode. their entire existence is fully contained within this being a vehicle for the plot with no development of their characters at all.
Yeah. I think as we go, I've taken some notes from Memory Alpha. Thank you very much to Memory Alpha for giving us some background on the episode as to how this episode came about. So I have some sympathies with why it exists in the form that it does, but it's never going to be one of my favourite episodes. I think it's too limiting in terms of what it can do, what it can be. I think that it's reasonably well done for what it is. It's just not a plot that I'm very fond of.
I can absolutely see why, and that's why we do this podcast, because we dig into these episodes with a mercy lacking and a show that is over 30 years old, written for episodic telly to a different generation. But sometimes script writing is just bad script writing, and we are here to hunt that down as and when we see it.
Okay. And given how many episodes of Deep Space Nine have been incredibly progressive, very well done, yeah, it behoves us to point out when some of them fall slightly short of the mark.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Kat. That is absolutely spot on. And if we didn't, well, we wouldn't be here having this podcast. So it all works in the end.
Sisko walks the corridor alone and looks out at the stars. I think he's quite a poetic man, is Ben Sisko.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our second picture. A beautiful woman approaches him, and thus begins a very TOS feeling episode. From this moment on, colour me skeptical as fuck.
Righto, Kat. Righto.
Oh, which isn't entirely fair to Sally Elise Richardson plays Fenner, and I think she does a wonderful job. She feels very warm as a person from the moment you see her. I think she isn't given much to work with in the script. The only direction she really has is, you fancy Sisko, you really fancy Sisko, you enthusiastically fancy Sisko. And she's just so bright and warm and appealing. I want to spend time with her, and I don't think she'd be interested in me because she fancies Ben too much. But she has a wonderful on-screen presence, which I think is helped by the wardrobe. Her dress is absolutely amazing. Her hair is fantastic. She looks stunning, and her acting very much matches that appearance. She really plays up. Just being an attractive, appealing, happy, friendly person. Just wonderful.
I think from this initial conversation with Ben Sisko, you get palpable, believable chemistry. I think there is just a magnetism between these characters, and I've seen it before with well, we've seen it once before in the pilot when Ben Sisko is interacting with a prophet representation of his late wife Jennifer, and I see it the same way that Avery Brooks portrays a man who is absolutely bedazzled, enamored by the person he's talking to, and it is again credit to Avery Brooks.
He's just so excited to be with her.
It's so palpable. It's beautiful. There is a man who is not afraid to show that he is enchanted by this woman. It's a masterclass, and I am immediately convinced from the moment that I see the way he is, just his eyes like widen, and you just see his whole expression changed to just enchantment. It's brilliant.
You know, we're both goths. It's Gomez Adams energy.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yes. Treat her like she is the only woman in the world. Oh, God, yes.
Yes, just he sees her, he genuinely likes her as a person. It's not just a woman that he's with.
Yes.
He's keen to get to know her.
Yes, and there's no bullshit about playing it cool or being like, oh, baby, you don't want to get tied up with me. I'm a lone Starbase commander. I can't be worried about these personal relationships. All of that is nonsense. It's two people who have an incredible spark between them, and I believe it instantly. So it's credit to both actors, I think, that I am immediately won over.
I think credit to them, and credit to the way that they act the script that they've been given, and some credit to the script, because in an episode that starts with a reminder that Sisko lost his wife 4 years ago, I don't get the impression that he's just running from his grief.
No, that's a really good point.
It starts with a reminder that he is still very sad to have lost Jennifer, but when he meets Fenner, she's captivating, and she entrances him, and she's quick-witted. She responds to him well. There is good chemistry there.
Really good.
It feels like it works, but I feel that it shouldn't work. It should feel awkward as hell, and it should feel crowbarred in. And in terms of the narrative, I very much think it is crowbarred in. I don't think it should have been written this way, but they make it work. It's weird.
It
props
is.
to these actors.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think if it was delivered by anyone else, um, there would be a problem believing it. And I think you sent me a picture of him crashing his shuttle.
Yeah, the
There it
shuttle
is.
cracking.
There it is.
Yeah, there's then a huge
Isn't
burst of
it?
flames. They love flames on Deep Space Nine. And then the sun reignites. And then we get another lovely image of Fenna crying a picturesque single tear. She's just,
There it
oh,
is.
yeah. One last
There it
moment of
is.
beauty before she disappears.
Forever. Having served her
And
purpose as a plot element with a voice. Sorry, that was cynical. That was cynical, but
oh, more than that, she lives to serve the male character's emotional needs.
oh,
Great.
God.
If Bechtel were dead, she'd be turning in a grave. She's alive. She's feeling mildly uncomfortable somewhere.
Absolutely. I think a little bit tired about the constant references to the Bechdel test, but I'm sorry, Alison, you did give us a brilliant yardstick. A brilliant yardstick. It is.
And this episode does not
Wonderfully.
pass the
Oh
Bechdel
my
test.
God, it's so bad. It's
Anyway,
so
we've got
bad.
one last picture
Please.
before we have a
Yes.
final round. When she disappears for the last time, just fizzing out of existence, she's in front of the ship's plaque, which, according to Memory Alpha, these often have some interesting text on them, which it was assumed would not be picked up on camera. And because Deep Space Nine is filmed on, I don't know, paper and dreams, we can't see it at all. But it has the slogan, "Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't," which is apparently from an Almond Joy commercial released in 1990. Now, I don't know whether this was insensitive towards people with mental health problems, whether a person was hungry when they made it. We just don't know. I don't think the phrase "to nut" had entered the popular vocabulary at that point, so it probably wasn't a sexual allusion. But who frickin' knows? It also lists some of the staff of the ship, some of them who are in-world Federation staff who are mentioned on other plaques elsewhere, and some of them are the names of people who worked on Deep Space Nine and other Star Treks, including Michael Okuda and Gene Roddenberry. It's worth searching for Memory Alpha Prometheus Dedication Plaque if you're interested. It's got 3 columns of names on it, all of them interesting. Oh, we finally get station log supplementals. Cisco notes Fenna's complete recovery, but that unfortunately she has no memory of Fenna's experiences, even though this is a station log rather than a personal log. So he doesn't talk about his personal relationship with Fenna in it. We learn that Fenna plans to stay on New Halana for the rest of her life. She's been away for long enough. She apologizes to Cisco for not being able to remember what Fenna did and felt. And Cisco says he can remember for both of them, which, oh my God, I've just a very odd parallel today. I've been watching some of the Next Generation episodes. I happened to watch The Offspring. There's a moment when Lal and Data are about to say goodbye for the last time. She says, "I love you, Father." He says, "I'm sorry that I can't feel it with you." And she responds, "I can feel it for both of us." So this "I can remember for both of us" feels like a thematic throwback.
Really
It's probably a
does.
complete coincidence. But it's not as hard-hitting a moment as that moment in The Offspring. The Offspring is one of the most emotional episodes, whereas this
If
is
not of
a
all
bit
Star
annoying,
Trek.
to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. That is an unfair comparison because The Offspring is one of the best Star Trek episodes of all time. Oh, wow.
It is. But yes, Nidell asks Cisco to tell her what was Fenna like. And Cisco says, "Fenna, she was just like you." Which, fucking no, she wasn't.
Right,
She was
thank
demonstrably
you.
not like her.
Thank
It
you.
was a really, I think
I
it was
did
meant
not
to, I
like
think
that.
what that was meant to flag was Cisco is watching the woman that he loves walk away. He wasn't. He is watching a completely different woman
person.
who wasn't aware of the existence of the other person walking away. She isn't just like her. If we wanted Nidell to have become more like Fenna in this moment, it's too fucking soon. Her husband has just died.
Oh, God, that's
You
such a good
cannot have
point.
her evince any of the traits that Fenna has. There's no way to resolve the episode that has her get her whole self back at this point without stomping on Sayatic's grave. It's just a bad plot. You shouldn't have written this episode the way that you wrote it. You've
That's
done
a
well with the
really good
material.
point.
Writers, the actors have done an incredible job with what they were given, but the whole shape of it is just rubbish.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. Did not like that ending at all. Did not serve Fenner. Did not serve Nadell.
No.
Weirdly did not take into account Sayatic and the complexity of how you might have felt about your husband you weren't happy with but has just killed himself out of nowhere.
But I'm really sorry that your girlfriend doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, because we've got to tie it back to what the senior staff think. You know, what does the main character think? From the very beginning of making my notes, I was like, this episode starts on a real high and kind of erratically wobbles down, and then just absolutely nosedives in the last 5 minutes. Just
Yeah, the strong emotional climax of the episode is a man committing suicide. It's not even about the two. It's about him freeing the woman in theory, but really it's about the pinnacle of his career,
oh
which he's just been
god.
talking about.
Ah.
She's almost perhaps it's unkind, but she's almost incidental at that
Yeah,
point.
no,
He
that
might
is a
have
way
decided
to
to do
read it.
that anyway.
That is a way. I can imagine a scriptwriter thinking, "Oh, this is really neat," you know. Sayatic gets his achievement and he releases her, you know, like she's some passive resource to be. Oh, she gets
Precisely.
she gets the beneficence of Sayatic to go. I now release you to be yourself after an entire lifetime of being emotionally shackled to me, an
One
egotist
last
with
kind thing he
little
does, taking
empathy.
himself out of the picture. It's horrible.
It's
She doesn't. She just
horrendous.
our fix of giving her a moment to speak up for herself and talk about what the problem was as Fenna with Nidal
That
would have fixed so
would
much
have
of this
made
episode.
all the difference. Well, perhaps not all, but a lot of difference. Yeah. No, I hated the way this episode ended. I thought it was dreadful. It wasn't right for anybody at all. That's not what
It
Ben would have
wasn't.
said. It was not what Nadell needed to hear. It was disrespectful of Fenner. Sayatic deserves something other than that, other than being like, oh, wow, actually, that was a pretty cool fireworks show. No, it was all. A man died.
He gets his obituary sent to the Daystrom
Oh,
Institute. He's
my
fine.
God. That's not a resolution.
Importantly, it can end with Cisco staring wistfully out of the window, remembering what he's lost. Dead
Oh,
wife and effectively dead girlfriend.
oh, God.
It's horrible. It's just, oh God, it's just so bad.
I would also say that actually seeing for the second time a woman he's romantically interested in dissolving on a Federation starship is not a great experience for Ben Sisko. He doesn't want every
Oh my
memory,
God, you're right.
right? It occurred to me.
He's on a Federation starship watching his wife die in front of him for a second. Oh my God.
No, I don't think
Oh,
anybody else would have read into that, but we do because we're, you know, like very ardent consumers of this product, and it just did not sit well with me.
I'm just going to share something the Bakery Dragon has said in the
Oh,
chat.
please,
Someone
they're great in chat.
describing Sciatic as someone who would literally rather die than go to therapy. Yeah, he's not going to go
I
and
love
talk
that.
about what else he could do with his life
I
and how he
love
can
that.
make meaning in this
I
achievement.
love
No, he'd
that.
rather just.
And there's David as well, pointing out that not to worry, Cisco will be back to normal in the next episode. I get that we're not at serial programming, but this is just. You can do it. All the ingredients are there. These characters are becoming fleshed out and known from episode to episode. Please stop treating it like it's a massive hard reset every time we see them. God.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, chat. Chat has been brilliant tonight. You've all been fantastic. If I had the time, I would just.
I just want
Sorry,
to
Kat.
share one last thing from Chad. The indoor cat, who has more of an American context than we do, says, in the US, you have Almond Joy and Mounds. This is in relation to the plaque. And then sometimes
Yes.
you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Both are coconut-filled, dark chocolate-coated candy bars like Bounty. The advert campaign was for both Almond Joy and Mounds to reference both. Sometimes you feel like a nut for Almond Joy. Sometimes you don't for Mounds, because Almond Joy had a nut in it and Mounds did. Were they kind of drawing a parallel between the two women? What were they doing with that?
I don't want to go down this path. I don't
No,
want to
that's very
tug on that
wise.
thread. I'm.
Want to find who made that plaque? I want to ask them. Demand answers.
I just don't think they ever thought in 30 years a couple of terminally online nerds would be like, just asking
Feminism
questions.
with this plaque is a problem. Oh my gosh.
Right. Okay, it is 2.5 hours. Kat, we've
Oh my
concluded
goodness.
the scene by
Thank you for
scene.
bearing with us, everyone
Thank
who
you,
stayed in
chat.
chat to watch us moan of so much about this episode.
Oh my
Thank you,
God.
Tim, for giving your perspectives on it. I've actually really enjoyed talking about it.
I always do. And thank you. Yeah, I can't thank chat enough for being on this very, very long, complex, all over the place journey with us. But every time I get into one of these discussions, I discover new things that Kat has observed that I didn't because we have different perspectives. And chat, you always throw such interesting things at us that we haven't observed ourselves. So it's a wonderful journey of discovery. I'm so grateful. Any kind of closing thoughts, Kat? I mean, we've kind of torn this one to pieces, but is there anything we haven't acknowledged at this point?
I don't think so. I think I've actually mentioned everything that I wanted to in relation to the background of the episode. I'll expand a little on what you said earlier about it being conceived as a story around Bashir. The idea was that he would fall for a woman who was being abused by her husband,
Oh,
which would have made it darker still that her emotional problems were the result of not just a relationship with a narcissist, but someone who was more actively horrible than the husband she had in this episode. But yeah, they'd already had some Bashir episodes. The original one was apparently more of a mystery in tone, whereas this one was more of a romance, because Michael Piller, I apologise, it was Michael Piller rather than Ira Stephen Bear, felt that this story could humanise Cisco, who was at risk of becoming too aloof. And to be fair, one thing that I did draw out of this episode is that I love Cisco's characterization in it. He's very
same.
warm,
Oh,
even
God, same.
though it's a Woman of the Week episode. He falls for her in a very authentic feeling way. And I actually really liked the relationship between them, even though she's a magical mystery woman who won't exist after this. And that's full testament to the two actors playing the roles. They did an amazing job.
Absolutely agreed.
I'm
Exactly
really
the
glad
same.
it was not a Bashir episode.
Oh
Where
my God!
can you imagine how Julian would have been?
And in that plot line where he's dealing with a woman who's suffering abuse from her husband. Oh God, I can't think of two less enjoyable collisions of character and plot. Oh, good God, no!
So there is much to be thankful for that this
It
episode
could
turned
have
out the
been
way that it
worse.
did.
And we still come away really unhappy. So okay, yeah, so we would have been absolutely foaming at the mouth if we'd have seen that version. Wow. Okay. Right. Okay, I'm going to bring us to an end then. I'm going to thank everyone for taking a part, most particularly Lieutenant Ndor Cat, who is a wonderful bridge crew member for us. It's much appreciated. We will hope to return in a couple of weeks' time, and I will have a highly edited version of tonight's discussion up on YouTube, where I try and limit it to no more than half an hour, so you can actually watch it over your lunch rather than, need to pause for a loo break halfway through, which is the case. I would just say that this has been a great episode for Ben Sisko to begin with, and then everything else just got increasingly more and more annoying, which is just, I think, a problem that early Star Trek series kind of dealt with as they're establishing characterization and trying to break out of episodic programming rather than serial.
Absolutely. But much props to the person who cast the cast and the cast themselves. The two guest stars were absolutely brilliant.
Phenomenal. Loved them both. Wonderful casting. Rescued an episode from what could have been an absolute disaster. Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. We will hopefully see you in a couple of weeks' time, energy levels permitting. And until that time, I just encourage you all to live long and prosper. And we will see you all very soon. Good night.
Take care, everyone. See you soon.
Take care.